Does the land remember? We remember how the land used to be. We remember when the forest was tall and green and the fish swam in crystal streams. We remember the shapes of the mountains, each with its own name, defining the sky. But now the forest is gone, the river choked with toxins, the mountaintops scraped bare. But that beauty is only part of what we miss. We also grieve because for so many generations, we felt that the land was holding us in its embrace. Now it is so changed that it can hold us no longer, and we can barely recognize it.
The towns which have been built around this area, are built by these minerals. And our great-grandfathers moved from the rural areas coming up to Johannesburg to come and work, on really difficult conditions, extracting minerals, especially gold, in these mines. They suffered a lot. Some of them are still even buried underneath this earth. We sometimes experience earth traumas, and people don't really understand why. You can see that this earth has been really exploited.
I am from West Virginia, and it is the most beautiful place in the world to me. But being from here also means that my family's had to contend with what coal mining does to our land, our homes, our water, and our health. Most of my family worked in the industry, and as a result, I've buried so many, it feels like our family's theme song is Amazing Grace.
We have a mining tradition, though it's old, it's historic, from 1850 to 1906, for instance. We were making copper wires for electricity. Copper was essential, it was essential in shipping. There was 800 people in one area of that village at one time, at the height of the mining community. There would have been extreme poverty. There was a dependence and reliance on alcohol. They had no lawmakers, so there was no police station or anything like that. And this pains my heart that where miners were buried, locals would not be buried. They were thought so lowly. Today, there's a lot of subsidence in the land around the place. There, some houses are in difficulty where the foundations are going into old pits.
It seems that to the mining corporations and even to our governments, the only thing that's valuable here is the minerals below the ground. The beauty of the place, the traditions, even the people, mean nothing. All the time we are reacting to what's happening. We speak with one another. We write letters. We protest. We have even brought lawsuits against the corporations. Our struggle is endless.
When the land that people love is hurt, the people who live there hurt too. And for a long time, people didn't give credence to those feelings of despair. But Glenn Albrecht, the Australian philosopher, coined two words, solastalgia and soliphilia, that gave credibility to those feelings of despair when a place is hurt.
Solastalgia I've defined as a form of distress or homesickness that people feel when they're at home and their home environment is being desolated around them. It's the impact of a chronic change agent like open-cut coal mining or climate change. Soliphilia is the love of a place and the interrelated interests that people have within it, where people attempt to stop the forces of solastalgia, the forces that are desolating and destroying their loved home environment, by collaborating and cooperating with one another in order to prevent the further damage and to help in the repair of a place. It's been a great blessing to have met Trebbe, because she does, through public actions, many of the things that I've thought about as a philosopher. So we have the theory and praxis coming together in two different people in two different parts of the world.
Glenn and I came up with the idea of having a day for communities all over the world that are hurt by mining and drilling, a day of art and music. And on this day, communities that are suffering from mineral extraction would have the opportunity to express not just what is hurting about what they're going through, but also what they love about their home place. We were very fortunate to get an original song written by the award-winning composer John Kusiak and his son Jackson Kusiak that we invited people to sing. But other than that, they were free to create whatever kind of event they wanted. We called it The Ground Beneath Our Hearts.
Make something beautiful for the place you love and mourn. That was the invitation. This invitation challenged us in surprising ways. Some of us thought at first, what, make art at a coal mine or a gas fracking site? What good could that possibly do? We have too much protesting and fighting to do to take time for such a thing. That's not activism. Or is it?
I want to participate in the ground beneath our hearts because I really don't want my children to contend with the struggles my families had to endure.
Bhakti Fest is one of the largest yoga festivals in the country. This was an opportunity to bring this spiritual community that has the same goals and aspirations that environmental activists do, that community members in areas that have been deeply impacted by mining and drilling, but they're not generally connected into activism that actually makes a difference on a tangible, physical, practical, political level. So this was a way to ritualize it, put it into a form that really appealed to this group of people, and then connect them into how they can actually make a difference.
Here in Gloucester, we're fighting fracking. We create flowers like these that we give out to passers-by and people that stop and talk to us. And we find that they can use those as a method to start a conversation with other people. So when we were asked to be part of the ground beneath our hearts, we thought, what could we do? And we thought about our flowers, and we came up with the idea of creating a field of sunflowers.
Seeing that river turned gold and yellow, it's a beautiful, beautiful river. And to see it contaminated by this huge amount of toxic chemicals from the mines, it was a really visual and visceral response that we all had when all of a sudden it was coming together time-wise with when this event, the ground beneath our hearts, was happening. And we suddenly realized that those two things could come together. The need to do something in response to the river and this incredible worldwide event, that we could put those together.
In the end, 10 communities said yes to the invitation.
It was pretty challenging, actually, to do this event. Our partner in Azerbaijan, all the communication was done through Google Translate because we didn't speak the same language. Some of the communities were very remote, so any kind of communication whatsoever was difficult. We had a young graduate student from Bogota who was going to fly down to a remote Amazonian community to videotape them, but at the last minute, the airline that has the single flight a week canceled all flights indefinitely. We didn't have the money to hire professional photographers to go to these events, but every single community contributed photos, audio, and video about their events.
As we began to consider what we would do, we realized that a different kind of love was emerging, a love of what we could create together, what we could see together, what we could experience together. September 12, 2015 was Ground Beneath Our Hearts Day.
In the build-up to the 12th of September, we started creating sunflowers. Big sunflowers, small sunflowers, intermediate-sized sunflowers, and we invited people to send us in sunflowers. So we received sunflowers from across Australia. We even received sunflowers from the UK. On the Saturday of the 12th of September, we as nanas were up, incredibly early for nanas, and we spread sunflowers across the whole town. We had them on sticks, we had them on poles, we had them just lying on the ground. And as we walked through town, people were also wearing sunflowers. After the town walk, we then took our sunflowers down to the area where AGL, in October and November last year, fracked 4 test wells. And to us, it was actually a really, really healing and beautiful thing to do.
In the California desert, aerial artist John Quigley directed 350 people in creating a water goddess with their own bodies.
There was magic that happened. I mean, incredible magic. We were all, I think, half joking when we were saying for weeks that we were going to make it rain in the desert. But literally, as the processions were starting from various areas in the festival, there was actual raindrops that were falling. And then at the height of the ritual, there was a rainbow in the sky. And then at the completion of it, there was thunder and lightning in the distance. I think as a ritual, it was incredibly powerful.
The weather on the 12th of September was particularly beautiful. It was just a lovely warm day. When we were doing the walk, we got the history of the mining community as it was in the 1850s, and then we were brought down to the cove. And Sean laid out this plan of using the stones at the cove to build a roadway to the sea in the similar fashion in movement that the miners may have used when they were handling ore. So they were passing from one to another. And also we were creating a community with all that were present, in that when you handled a stone, you received and you gave, you received and you gave. Then we went down to the sea and we walked up through the passageway of stones.
As we created this celebration in our own place, we felt supported, knowing that other people all over the world were doing something in their communities on the same day. Like us, they knew what it was like to live with the pain of damage to the ground beneath their feet and beneath their hearts.
Tell me, what is a mountain when it's blasted flat?
In Appalachia, where mountaintop removal for coal mining scars the skyline, sickens the miners, and fills the creeks with toxic debris, men and women wrote prayers on ribbons and pinned them to a blanket. They also brought objects that reminded them of the place they loved and told the group why.
So what I brought today was this piece of clay, and this clay came off of my farm. My fiance, who died 5 years ago, he was building a pond on the farm for me. And I was down in the bottom because there was no water in it yet. And I looked down and there was this blue clay. And I reached down and I dug that clay out with my fingers and I rolled it around into this ball. And now it's hard. It's just like a rock. When you love something so much, part of you is part of that earth. My little piece of earth is now surrounded by a rock quarry. Oh. And so every day when I go home, my heart aches to see the place I love being blown up. Oh. But the other thing I think about with that little ball of clay is, in its first form, it was very soft and malleable. But then through manipulations and being exposed to certain things, it's turned into something very hard. I used to be very, shy and backward until I saw the earth being destroyed by mountaintop removal. And so I've become tough. I've become tough in fighting the bad.
What have we found? No matter
Azerbaijan, a journalist traveled back to a city she had written about, Sumgayit, named one of the 10 most polluted places in the world because of its chemicals, oil, and heavy metals. She visited one of the saddest places in this broken city, a cemetery just for children, many of whom died prematurely or are born with birth defects. In South Africa, a group of young people visited one of the gold mines where many of their grandfathers and great-grandfathers had labored. The young people listened to the stories of the old miners and read original poems.
Gold mountain, gold in the mountain, and gold in the dead, and greed in the heart. Our great forefathers worked day and night for South Africa. Mine was where they feel at home. There was no mountain too high for them, but they will keep digging until it becomes like this.
In the Amazon, where the land and the fabric of society had been shredded, first by rubber tapping, now by gold mining, the indigenous Witoto community revived a traditional dance.
El oro para nuestra cosmovisión es como las plaquetas, los glóbulos que dan vida al ser humano. El oro es lo que mantiene a la naturaleza, por eso es prohibido sacarlo. El baile se llama jimoma, viene de la palabra jimoa, árbol con aroma para endulzar el corazón. También está relacionado con la palabra yuaki, que es alimento, paz, unidad, progreso, porque esta venía de una tribu guerrera que existió mucho antes del conflicto cauchero. Es un baile de integración, por eso se imita a los animales dentro de algunas de las danzas. Es un baile de agradecimiento hacia la madre naturaleza.
On Colorado's Front Range, 3 women made drawings and wrote postcards to the earth. In the Philippines, a children's theater group participated.
It was totally communally, jointly. It was really wonderful. People talked about just feeling real grief and an intense grief, anger, helplessness. They talked about how strong their connection was to the river. And then we worked on making a wreath, a sort of giant wreath. I had woven together some native materials, and then people brought things to put into it. And then we wove it all together as a group. And so then we carried it down to the river. Then as the river took it, it formed it into a heart. Yeah. And everyone just gasped, and some of us were in tears. It was just so beautiful. And just watching the river take it, it was the most beautiful thing. And then, of course, we sang the song. And strong tides, these are the things that hold me here. Deep roots and strong tides, holding to the ground beneath my heart.
All over the world, as was demonstrated by the Ground Beneath Our Hearts Day, people made similar but different artistic and creative responses to their places that they love.
Our land may be damaged. It may have been so prodded, gouged, dug, drilled as to be unrecognizable. And yet it is still our homeland. It is the ground beneath our hearts. Tomorrow, we will go back to fighting for justice, doing what we can to protect our homes, our children, our future. Yet from now on, we bring into our lives something new, something that arose on that particular day.
Something really deep and significant happened that day, and that it was more than an art installation, and it was more than a remembering miners. It was just a very special event in their community.
También fue muy pertinente realizarlo porque algunos de los estudiantes han dejado la escuela por irse a trabajar a las balsas, interesándose más por el conocimiento occidental que el conocimiento ancestral. Hacer esta actividad fue una manera de revitalizar la cultura, porque los chicos se interesaron en aprender los cantos, ir hasta el monte a traer la corteza para hacer el traje, tejerlo y así aprender la importancia de lo que significa hacer un baile.
We launched a petition on Move On to ban fracking in California. That has, last time I checked, it was almost 3,000 signatures. While the actual performance and ritual of this was really about water and the essence of how important water is to us, the call to action for what people could do was very political.
We were very happy to be part of the worldwide Ground Beneath Our Hearts. It's very special when people care about their land, their home, and what's happening to it. And then to witness what other communities had done in an attempt to heal and to treasure the ground beneath their hearts was something that was very special, something that it was a magical day.
Our environment, we are committed to the ground beneath our hearts. South Africa, 12 September 2015. Yay!
I'm bound to this land like a tree to a mountainside. Water runs through the streams like blood running through my veins. This homeland is our land, the ground beneath our hearts. After all we've lost, what have we found? No matter the cost, we will never surrender the ground beneath our hearts.